The man you are about to meet has erased entire family trees from existence. He has made grown men weep for deaths he refused to give them. He has waited generations just to collect a single debt. And the woman? The woman lying unconscious in the snow carries a secret so dangerous that every vampire on this earth has been ordered to kill her on sight. So when these two souls collide on the coldest night of the year, I need you to ask yourself one question: is this a love story, or is this a tragedy waiting to happen? Keep watching, because the answer will shatter you. He had ended bloodlines for less than a whisper of disrespect, but when he found her lying in the snow beneath the colored lights of the Christmas fair, something ancient and forgotten stirred in his chest, and for the first time in 3 centuries, the Vampire King felt fear. The Christmas fair smelled of roasted chestnuts and mulled wine, but Dominic Ashford could only smell the lies. He moved through the crowd like a shadow given form, his dark coat brushing past oblivious humans who laughed and sang, unaware that death walked among them. He wasn't here for celebration. He was here because someone in this pitiful gathering had stolen from his family, and the Ashfords never forgot a debt. Not in this generation. Not ever. His fingers flexed inside leather gloves. Patience. He'd learned it over centuries, refined it into an art. Revenge was sweetest when served with intent. Then he saw her. A woman collapsed near the carousel, her body crumpled in the snow like a broken ornament. The crowd flowed around her, too busy, too blind. But Dominic stopped. Her dark hair spilled across white ground, her lips pale, her chest barely rising. She wore a thin coat, inadequate for winter, and no gloves. Alone. Forgotten. Something in him shifted. He shouldn't care. He didn't care. But his feet moved anyway, and when he knelt beside her, his hand trembling slightly as it hovered over her face, Dominic Ashford realized with cold clarity that his carefully controlled world had just shattered. Across town, in a cramped apartment that hadn't seen warmth in weeks, a photograph sat on an empty table. In it, a young woman smiled beside an older man, both faces bright with hope. Beneath the frame, a letter lay open, the words smudged with tears, "They're coming for you. Run. Don't trust anyone, especially not him." But Isabel hadn't run far enough. "Listen, I made this story with love for you, and we're just getting started. If you're already hooked, if you're already wondering who she is and what secret she's hiding, don't just stand there like a silent ghost. Hit that subscribe button and join the fastest growing vampire love stories community on YouTube. We're building something special here, and I want you to be part of it. Also, I'm dying to know, where in the world are you watching this from? Drop your country or city in the comments. I love knowing where my story lovers are. Now, here's the question burning in your mind: why would the most feared vampire king stop for a stranger when he's on a mission for revenge? Drop your thoughts below. Dominic lifted her from the snow with ease, her weight nothing against his strength, but the warmth of her body against his chest felt like a brand. Her eyelids fluttered. Snowflakes caught in her lashes. Up close, she was devastatingly fragile, a china doll seconds from breaking, and he hated how much that bothered him. Her eyes opened. Green. The color of forests he hadn't walked through in 100 years. She stared at him, confused, terrified, and then she whispered, "You found me. Not who are you or what happened. You found me." Like she'd been waiting. His jaw tightened. "You're freezing. What are you doing out here alone?" She tried to pull away, panic flooding her features, but her body wouldn't cooperate. "I can't. I shouldn't. You have to let me go. Relax, love. I'm not in the habit of letting women die in the snow. Terrible for my reputation." He flashed a smile, the one that usually disarmed or terrified, but she only looked more afraid. "You don't understand," she breathed. "If they see you with me, they'll kill you. Dominic laughed then, a sound like thunder. Darling, I'd love to meet anyone foolish enough to try. But her fear was real. And it smelled like blood. He brought her to the only place he trusted, a penthouse suite overlooking the city, where his sister Celeste was waiting with raised eyebrows and a glass of wine. You brought home a stray human? On tonight of all nights? Brother, we have a traitor to hunt. Dominic laid Isabel on the couch, stepping back as if her proximity burned. She'll rest here. We continue as planned. But he didn't move toward the door. Isabel stirred, consciousness returning in fragments. Her eyes darted around the room, taking in the luxury, the danger, and finally landing on him. Where am I? Somewhere safe, Dominic said. Nowhere is safe. She sat up too quickly, swayed, and he was beside her in an instant, hands steadying her shoulders. The contact sent electricity through them both. She jerked back. Don't touch me. You don't know what I am. Then enlighten me. I can't. Celeste stepped forward, impatience sharp in her voice. Dominic, we don't have time for mysteries. Either compel her or leave her. We have family business. Family. The word always worked on him. Dominic's expression hardened. He'd spent 3 centuries protecting the Ashford name, destroying anyone who threatened his bloodline. This girl, this stranger, shouldn't matter. But when he looked at her, trembling and defiant and so terribly alone, something in his dead heart fractured. Go without me, he said quietly. Celeste's eyes widened. You've got to be joking. Do I look like I'm joking? The two vampires stared at each other, a silent battle of wills, until Celeste finally sighed. Fine. But when this breaks your heart, don't say I didn't warn you. She left in a whisper of expensive perfume and frustration. Isabel watched the door close. You just chose me over your family. Why? Dominic poured himself a drink he didn't need, anything to avoid her eyes. Don't flatter yourself, love. I'm simply curious. And I always solve my curiosities. Is that what I am? A puzzle? He turned, and his expression was raw. You're the first thing in 200 years that's made me feel anything at all. So yes. You're a puzzle I intend to solve. The hours stretched between them like a wire pulled too tight. Isabel refused food, refused comfort, but she didn't try to leave. She couldn't. Outside, a snowstorm had descended on the city, trapping them together in luxury that felt like a cage. Dominic watched her from across the room, pretending to read documents he didn't care about. She sat curled by the window, staring at the white chaos outside. You should eat something, he said. I'm not hungry. You fainted from exhaustion or hunger or both. Stop being stubborn. She laughed bitterly. Stubbornness has kept me alive this long. Alive and running. From what? Silence. He set down his papers, moved to sit across from her. Not too close. Not yet. Let me guess. Bad ex-boyfriend? Witness protection? Her hands trembled in her lap. If I tell you, you'll either think I'm insane or you'll throw me out. Try me. I've seen things that would shatter your fragile human mind. She met his eyes then, and the weight in them was centuries old. What if I told you I'm not entirely human? Dominic leaned forward, intrigued. Now we're getting somewhere. Before she could answer, her phone buzzed. She grabbed it, read the message, and all color drained from her face. They found me, she whispered. Who? The people who've been hunting my family for 3 generations. And now they know I'm with you. Her voice cracked. I've just made you a target. Dominic smiled then, slow and dangerous. Oh, darling. I haven't had a good fight in decades. Let them come. But the question hanging between them was heavier than any threat. Would he still protect her when he learned what she truly was? If you're sitting there wondering what secret she's keeping, if you're already taking sides, do me a favor. Subscribe. That's it. One click. You're already this invested in their story. Don't just watch like a shadow. Be part of this family. She told him at midnight, when the world felt like it belonged only to them. My grandmother made a deal, Isabel began, her voice barely above a whisper. 70 years ago, she fell in love with a vampire. Not just any vampire. A lord from the old council. They had an affair, and she got pregnant. Dominic stiffened. The old council. He knew those names, those bloodlines. They'd been eradicated 50 years ago in the purge his own father had led. The vampire's family found out, she continued. They considered it an abomination. A half-blood child. They wanted her dead, wanted the baby destroyed. But my grandmother ran. She made a deal with a witch, something dark, something binding. The witch hid what the baby was, buried it so deep that even blood tests wouldn't reveal it. But the spell came with a price. It always does, Dominic murmured. Every third generation, the truth surfaces. The hybrid nature awakens. And when it does, both vampire and witch communities can sense it. They come hunting. She looked at him with eyes full of tears. I'm the third generation, Dominic. 3 months ago, I started changing. Healing too fast. Sensing things I shouldn't. Craving things that terrify me. And now they all know. The witches want to study me. The vampires want to kill me. And I just want to disappear. Dominic sat frozen, his mind racing through implications, through history, through the stories his father had told him about the half-bloods and why they were considered so dangerous. They could walk in daylight. Could reproduce. Could tip the balance of power. Show me, he said quietly. What? Show me what you are. She hesitated, then picked up a letter opener from his desk. Before he could stop her, she dragged it across her palm. Blood welled, bright and red, and then the wound began to close. Slow, imperfect, but unmistakable. Vampire healing. My God, he breathed. Now you know why I run. She wrapped her hand in her sleeve. And why you should let me go. But Dominic was already thinking 3 moves ahead, the way he always did. A hybrid. A secret bloodline. And every enemy his family had ever made would want her dead or controlled. He should turn her over. Use her as leverage. Protect his family name. Instead, he reached out and took her bandaged hand in his. Nobody touches you, he said, and his voice carried the weight of an oath. Nobody hunts you. Not while I'm alive. You don't owe me anything. No, he agreed. But maybe I'm tired of only caring about debts and revenge. Maybe, just this once, I want to protect something instead of destroy it. The next 3 days existed outside of time. The storm raged on, and inside the penthouse, something fragile and unexpected began to grow. Dominic called in every favor he had, contacted allies across continents, building a protection network around Isabel while she slept on his couch, finally allowing herself rest. When she woke, he was there with tea and a rare smile. You don't seem like a tea person, she said, accepting the cup. I'm full of surprises, love. I once spent a decade in London just to perfect the art of irritating the British aristocracy. Tea was a necessary weapon. She laughed, and the sound made something in his chest warm. A whole decade just to be annoying? They insulted my sister at a ball. Called her a colonial upstart. His eyes glinted with mischief and menace. By the time I was done, 3 of their family lines had fallen into scandal and ruin. I'm very patient when it comes to revenge. That's terrifying. That's family. He sat beside her, closer than before. We protect our own. Always. No matter the cost or the century. Isabel studied him over the rim of her cup. You're not what I expected. What did you expect? Cape and fangs? Maybe. Or just colder. Every vampire I've heard about is either a monster or trying to be human. You're neither. I'm exactly what I need to be. Monster when necessary. Humorous when the moment calls for it. And protective of the very few things I claim as mine. He paused. You're starting to fall into that category, whether you like it or not. She should have been afraid. Should have pulled away. Instead, she set down her tea and asked, "Why me? You don't even know me. I know you're stubborn. Brave. Running on empty but still fighting. I know you smell like vanilla and fear and something else I can't quite name. I know that when I found you in the snow, I felt something I thought I'd buried with my humanity." He turned to face her fully. And I know that I've spent 3 centuries being exactly who my family needed me to be. Maybe it's time I chose something for myself. I'm not a thing to choose, Dominic. No. You're the woman who's making me remember what it feels like to want something beyond revenge and legacy. His hand found hers. And that's terrifying for both of us. They sat in silence, hands intertwined, while snow fell outside and the world tried to break down the door. That night, she told him about her childhood, about moving every 2 years, about never having friends or roots. And he told her about his human life, about the brother he'd lost to plague before the turning, about the weight of immortality. For the first time in either of their lives, neither felt alone. Celeste returned on the 4th morning with blood on her collar and fury in her eyes. We need to talk. Now. She didn't look at Isabel. Privately. Dominic followed his sister into his study, leaving Isabel by the window, anxiety crawling up her spine. The shouting started immediately. Do you have any idea what you've done? Celeste's voice carried through the door. The entire council knows you're harboring a hybrid. They're calling it a betrayal of our kind. The council can go to hell. This isn't a joke, Dominic. They've issued an ultimatum. Hand her over for judgment, or the Ashford family loses its seat. Everything our father built, everything we've protected for 3 centuries, gone because you caught feelings for a science experiment. Don't call her that. That's what she is. Isabel pressed her hand to her mouth, each word a knife. She'd known this would happen. She always ruined everything she touched. Dominic's voice dropped to something deadly. Choose your next words carefully, sister. Or what? You'll choose her over your own blood? Over me? Over the family you've killed for, bled for, sacrificed everything for? Celeste's voice cracked. She's been here 4 days, Dominic. I've been by your side for 200 years. And I'm not enough to pull you back from this insanity? Silence. Then Dominic spoke, and Isabel's heart shattered. Give me 24 hours. I'll figure something out. Figure something out? The answer is simple. She goes, or we all fall. Isabel didn't wait to hear more. She grabbed her coat, her phone, and ran. The elevator took too long, so she took the stairs, 12 flights down, her hybrid healing the only thing keeping her from collapsing. By the time she hit the street, tears were freezing on her cheeks. She'd been stupid to hope. Stupid to think someone like him could choose someone like her. Behind her, Dominic burst through the lobby doors, Celeste at his heels. "Isabel, wait." She turned, and the look on her face stopped him cold. "You need 24 hours to figure out how to hand me over? Let me save you the trouble." Her voice was steady despite the tears. "I'm gone. Tell your counsel they can stop looking. Tell them the problem solved itself." "That's not what I meant." "Then what did you mean, Dominic?" "Because from where I'm standing, you just chose your legacy over me. And that's fine. That's what you should do. I was the idiot who thought maybe, just maybe, I'd finally found someone who'd choose me first." He reached for her, but she backed away. "Don't. I've spent my whole life being someone's problem. I won't be yours too." She turned and disappeared into the morning crowd, and Dominic stood in the snow, feeling something he hadn't felt since his human death. Complete and utter loss. Celeste touched his shoulder. "You did the right thing. She'll be safer far away from her world." But as he watched the space where Isabel had been, Dominic Ashford made a decision that would change everything. "No," he said quietly. "I did the coward's thing. And I've been many things in 3 centuries, but I've never been a coward." He turned to his sister with eyes that burned. "Call an emergency council meeting. Tonight. Every family, every elder. It's time they remembered exactly who they're dealing with. Here's what I need to know, and I need you to tell me in the comments. If you were Dominic, would you burn down everything you built for one person, or would you let them walk away to protect your family? Answer honestly. This matters." Isabel found herself at a bus station, clutching a one-way ticket to nowhere. Her hybrid blood kept her warm despite the cold, but inside she felt hollow. Empty. She stared at the departure board, watching destinations flicker past like possibilities she'd never have. A family of 4 sat nearby, laughing over hot chocolate, and the sight made her chest ache. She'd almost had it. For 4 days, she'd almost had someone. A place to belong. Arms that held her like she mattered. But she'd always known the truth. People like her didn't get happy endings. They got survival. And survival meant running. The bus pulled up. The doors opened. She didn't move. Her phone buzzed. An unknown number. She answered against her better judgment. "Don't get on that bus." Dominic's voice was rough, urgent. "Please. How did you? I've had people watching you since you left. I wasn't going to let you disappear without knowing you were safe." "Safe?" She laughed bitterly. "I'm never safe. That's the whole point. Then let me change that. Come back. Not to my home, not yet. There's a warehouse on 5th and Monroe. Meet me there in 1 hour. I'm about to do something incredibly stupid, and I want you to see it." "Why?" "Because I need you to know that when I said you were mine, I meant it. Through council politics, through family expectations, through every damn obstacle this world throws at us." His voice softened. "I've spent 3 centuries being the monster everyone needed me to be. Let me spend the rest of eternity being the man you deserve." The line went dead. Isabel looked at the bus. Looked at her ticket. Then she walked away from the station. The council chamber was ancient, hidden beneath the city in a cathedral of stone and candlelight. 12 elders sat in a semicircle, their faces cold with judgment. Celeste stood to the side, arms crossed, fear barely hidden in her eyes. Dominic walked in like he owned the room. Because he did. Dominic Ashford, the head elder, spoke, his voice like gravel. You've been summoned to answer for harboring an abomination. A hybrid whose existence threatens the purity of our bloodlines. What do you have to say? Dominic smiled. That dangerous, claw-like smile that had preceded the fall of empires. What do I have to say? Let me think. He began to pace, casual, predatory. Ah, yes. I have a few thoughts. First, let's discuss the word abomination. You throw it around like it means something, but I remember when this council called my family abominations. Colonials. Beneath consideration. My father built this family into a dynasty while you all cowered behind tradition and fear. This is not about your family. This is always about family. Dominic's voice thundered through the chamber. Everything I've done, every throat I've torn, every bloodline I've ended, was for family. For legacy. For the name Ashford to mean something in a world full of cowards and pretenders. He stopped pacing, and his eyes burned into each elder. But here's what I've learned in 3 centuries. Family isn't just blood. It's choice. It's who you fight for when the world tells you to let go. And I'm choosing her. The elders murmured. Celeste stepped forward. Dominic, think about what you're doing. I have thought. For 4 days, I've thought about nothing else. He looked at his sister with something like tenderness. You asked if I'd choose her over you. The answer is no. I'm choosing to expand what family means. And if any of you threaten her, if any of you send hunters or assassins or even whisper her name with malice, I will burn your houses to the ground. I will salt the earth where your ancestors are buried. I will be the nightmare that makes your grandchildren weep. And I will enjoy every second of it. Silence. Then the chamber doors opened, and Isabel walked in, trembling but tall. Dominic turned to her, and his entire demeanor shifted. The monster faded. The man emerged. You came, he breathed. You asked me to. She walked toward him, past the staring elders, past Celeste, until she stood before him. You really just threatened ancient vampire royalty for me? Darling, I'd threaten God himself if he looked at you wrong. She laughed, a wet sound full of tears and hope. You're absolutely insane. Probably. But I'm your kind of insane. He cupped her face in his hands, gentle despite the power in his veins. I found you in the snow, Isabel. Broken and alone and fighting to survive. And you looked at me like I was something worth trusting. No one's looked at me like that in centuries. You were perfect. He pressed his forehead to hers. Stay with me. Not because you need protection, but because I need you. Because for the first time in 300 years, I want to wake up with a reason beyond revenge. She reached up and touched his face. What about your family? Your legacy? Celeste stepped forward, sighing dramatically. Oh, for heaven's sake. If he's this insufferable about you, I suppose you'll have to stay. Someone needs to keep him humble. She almost smiled. Welcome to the family, hybrid. Try not to break anything. Isabel looked at Dominic, wonder in her eyes. She's terrifying. Runs in the blood. He grinned. So? What do you say? Ready to stop running and start fighting beside me instead? She answered by pulling him into a kiss, right there in the council chamber, in front of every elder in tradition that said they shouldn't exist. When they finally parted, Dominic whispered against her lips, You once told me I found you. But the truth is, love, you found me. You found the part of me I thought I'd buried forever. What part is that? The part that still believes in something beyond vengeance. He took her hand, turned to face the silent council. Meeting adjourned. Anyone who disagrees can take it up with my temper. They walked out together, past the candles and the judgment, into a future neither had expected. And for the first time in either of their lives, they weren't alone. 1 year later. The Christmas fair had returned to the city, and so had the snow. Isabel stood beneath the same colored lights where she had once collapsed, where her life had ended and begun all at once. But this year, she was not alone. This year, she was not running. Dominic appeared beside her with 2 cups of hot cocoa, his nose wrinkling with dramatic distaste. I cannot believe you're making me hold this sugary abomination in public. Do you know what this does to my reputation? She took her cup, grinning. The great vampire king, feared across continents, undone by marshmallows. I've killed men for less mockery than this. But you won't kill me. He leaned close, his breath warm against her cold cheek. No. You I'll keep forever. Even if you insist on dragging me to sentimental human festivals. She laughed, and the sound still made his dead heart stutter. A year had changed everything and nothing. The council had learned to fear Dominic's name even more than before, whispering about the hybrid queen who had tamed the untamable. 3 assassination attempts had been made on Isabel's life. 3 families had ceased to exist in response. Dominic had been thorough. Dominic had been patient. Dominic had been absolutely merciless. And then he had come home to her, washed the blood from his hands, and held her like she was made of glass and starlight. Celeste had surprised them both. The sharp-tongued sister had slowly warmed to Isabel, first with grudging respect, then with genuine affection. Last month, she had threatened to dismember a visiting lord who had dared to call Isabel an abomination at a gathering. Dominic had never been prouder. What are you thinking about? Isabel asked, watching the carousel spin in the distance. That night. Finding you here. He turned her to face him, snowflakes catching in her dark hair just like before. I was on my way to destroy someone. Collect a debt that was centuries old. And then I saw you lying in the snow, and everything I thought I knew about myself crumbled. Do you regret it? The debt you never collected? Dominic smiled, slow and dangerous and full of love. Darling, I've had 12 months to handle unfinished business. Every wrong has been addressed. Every debt paid. I am nothing if not efficient. She shook her head, half horrified, half amused. You're impossible. I'm thorough. There's a difference. Is there? He pulled a small velvet box from his coat pocket, and Isabel's breath caught. Before you say anything, Dominic said, his voice losing its playful edge, becoming raw and real, I need you to know that I had this made from a ring my mother wore. A ring I've carried for 3 centuries, waiting for someone worthy. I never thought I'd find her. I'd convinced myself that love was a weakness, a liability, something my enemies could exploit. He opened the box. Inside sat a ring of ancient silver, delicate and fierce, with a blood-red stone at its center. And then you collapsed at my feet, looked up at me with those ridiculous green eyes, and said you found me like you'd been waiting your whole life. And I realized that love isn't weakness, Isabel. Love is the only thing worth being strong for. Tears streamed down her face, freezing in the winter air. I'm asking you to be my wife. My queen. My family. Not because you need my protection, but because I need your heart. He took her hand, his own trembling for the first time in centuries. I need you to keep reminding me that I'm more than vengeance and violence. That somewhere beneath the monster, there's still a man worth loving. Dominic. Say yes. Please. I've conquered kingdoms and toppled empires, But I'm begging you, Isabel. Don't make me live another century without you. She pulled him into a kiss, deep and fierce and full of every answer he needed. When they parted, she whispered against his lips, yes. 1,000 times yes. He slid the ring onto her finger, and it fit perfectly, like it had been waiting for her all along. Around them, the Christmas fair continued, oblivious to the ancient vampire and the hybrid woman whose love had rewritten the laws of their world. Children laughed. Carols played. Snow fell like a blessing. Celeste appeared from the crowd, took one look at the ring on Isabel's finger, and rolled her eyes dramatically. Finally. I was beginning to think he'd chicken out. She pulled Isabel into an unexpected hug. Welcome to the family, sister. Officially this time. Dominic watched his two favorite women in the world embrace, and something in him healed completely. He had spent 300 years building a legacy of fear. Now he would spend eternity building something better. A legacy of love. Later that night, in the penthouse where it had all begun, Isabel curled against Dominic's chest, admiring the ring on her finger. I need to tell you something, she said quietly. He tensed. If another ancient secret is about to complicate our lives, I swear. I'm pregnant. Silence. Dominic sat up, eyes wide, mouth open, the most undignified expression he'd worn in centuries. That's not possible. Vampires can't. Hybrids can. Apparently. She bit her lip. Are you angry? He stared at her. Then at her stomach. Then back at her face. And then Dominic Ashford, the most feared vampire king in the modern world, burst into tears. A child, he whispered, pulling her close. Our child. Our child, she confirmed. He laughed through his tears, a sound of pure, unguarded joy. Oh, this poor baby. Half stubborn hybrid, half vengeful vampire. The world isn't ready. Neither are we. No. He kissed her forehead, her cheeks, her lips. But we'll figure it out. Together. As a family. And in the snow-covered city below, church bells rang midnight, welcoming Christmas morning and the first day of forever. If you made it to the end of this story, if you felt your heart race when he threatened the entire council for her, if you smiled when Celeste finally accepted her, then you already know this channel is something special. I poured my soul into this story for you, and all I'm asking for is one click. Subscribe. Join this family. Because that's what we are here, a family of people who love deep stories, vampire romance, and endings that make your chest ache in the best way. Don't be the one who watches silently and leaves without a trace. I see you. I appreciate you. Now show me you appreciate this too. And listen, if you love this story, you're absolutely going to fall for the next one. It's already waiting for you. Click the image showing on your screen right now before you forget, because trust me, you don't want to miss what happens next. Go on. Click it. I'll be waiting for you there.